Hello, comic fam. We're broadcasting with the powers of the internet, broadcasting from somewhere on Spaceship Earth in Denver. Fan Expo. We got Fire Guy Ryan on the mic.
Good day.
We got the Golden Age Guru.
What's going on, guys?
Through the power of WhatNot, we are here covering a Founders Day of sorts, the launching of a publishing company. The sponsor of this show is indeed WhatNot, and if you hit the link in the description, you can join us every single Wednesday on the best new place to buy and sell collectibles. You actually get a $10 credit if you use that link and download the app. We get a $10 credit, and then we can all purchase more funny books on the app. We get together with the whole crew. Guru, you're there every single Wednesday.
Yes, sir. It's about, 8 to 9 of us now?
That's right. We have artists who are part of the squad, dealers. We have an LCS who's there. And I go live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. What about you?
9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for me.
All right. We bring dollar start auctions that last as little as 15 seconds long. We break out the keys, the exclusives, the drops. And we are here to chat about the ruckus this weekend was, in a good way. It was crazy. And this was something that we knew was coming, but to actually experience it, I felt like we were doing something really special, witnessing something special in the comic book industry. 4 different comic books that were announced, all of them being managed and distributed and run, created through the powers of WhatNot. Jeff, was your mind blown when you saw all this?
Look, we hit the mic a lot, but to hit it during a convention, we rarely do. So this was something super important, and to have somebody small all of a sudden jump into publishing who can make such waves and a ripple in the industry, this is a really exciting time to see because they're putting out content, they have the backing, and their stuff is absolutely being appreciated on the app right now.
The fan base as well. Like, we were watching multiple people witness this on the app, hundreds of members just riling, getting loud, excited, and putting their energy behind these announcements. But then crowds around the stage, actually at the Fan Expo. How
the vibe is way different there.
The vibe, right?
Yeah, it's one thing to watch you see a number like, oh, there's 100 people in this chat. That's a thing. But when you're at the booth and you see all these people just like stopping and looking and not just continuing to walk, it's like, oh, this is actually a thing. This is my first con doing this stuff with WhatNot.
Ryan, confirm or deny, is Hawkeye in Iron Man 57?
Probably not.
Probably
not likely.
Not likely, no.
So this is it's a big experience for me in multiple ways, but I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, the vibe is definitely different. And one thing that I pointed this out to you at last convention, but I really felt at this con. You and I have done many conventions together over the last 5 years, right? And one thing that we've always complained about is that these comic book conventions are so exciting and they're so, we're always happy to be there, but it's always a anxious, feeling when you get there, what's the comic section going to be like? Are there going to be more than 6 dealers at this show, right? And for a comic book convention, it seems like the comics were getting smaller every single year. And this year, with the introduction of WhatNot Comics specifically, but they're also bringing in the toys and the collectible cards and figures. There's other things that are happening as well, but WhatNot Comics is definitely making their presence known. It feels different. Comic books feel different. The comic collecting community at a convention just got an adrenaline shot, and I feel like comics are coming back with a strength.
Yeah, it's interesting because, they have a massive umbrella, WhatNot. Like you said, they have their little irons and all types of fires in the collectible realm, which is great because you're nursing all these other avenues that people can get into. So it's fun seeing that because you're not only birthing excitement for comics, but you're birthing this community feel because people feel like they have a personality. You have people who follow you specifically because they like you. Right, and you like them because most people are really good people.
It's the comic fam, right?
And we're all getting to see that in a community feel, opposed to just being a name somewhere like on eBay, like XX3473 wins the books. I don't even know who that person is.
Right.
So here you are somebody, you feel like you're somebody, and you're getting what you want, and you're getting it amongst friends. So it's a really fun and interactive app that I'm really enjoying. And I do think, like you said, you feel the energy when you're there and they're there, and you're seeing the effect it's having on collectors in the room and outside.
For sudden deathing it. Hello, it's good to see you guys. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate the support.
It's kind of weird, you know, with the microphone and everything, but hey, we're at Denver Fan Expo.
We're just watching people by the swarm, you know, like shout out Hive Comics when I'm saying like B lingo terminology, but like it's like a swarm who are just downloading the app. Everyone knows they have eBay and they can buy comics from eBay, but they don't do it for a reason. And it took an app to like come up with a way to bring the community together and to make it possible to go far and beyond. And for those of you who have not taken the opportunity to download the app or to just buy comics in general, to give it a shot, they went out of their way to start the app as far as the comic section with vetted sellers. So out the gate, you have credible individuals in the industry who by and large know how to at least organize the comics in a way to ship them in a way that you can buy them with peace of mind. And then there's also elite dealers on there, very well-known dealers who they know their grading. I mean, you're on there, Guru, and I've actually gotten a lot of my grading knowledge from you. And Danielle's on there, Nerdy Girl Comics, who's been in the industry for a long time. Russ Bright, like we have members of our crew. But beyond that, Spider-Man Booth, you know, Franchise Kicks, like there's a lot of really notable members who have gone to WhatNot, brought their communities there. And this app in the comics section has been there for under a year. So let's give credit to where credit's due.
Yeah, it's early. So the amount of growth has been exponential. Every con, really, it feels the energy level is getting greater. The rooms are being filled up more with more excited people to be part of the hobby across the board, really. And I mean, like you said, we have friends who have jumped in. They see the potential there. They see the strength it has. And really, when moving comics, you want as many avenues as possible. You're not going to fixate just on one, or nor should you. Whatever works for you, start there, and then try to expand and grow into other places, because you can't find that sometimes that one seller in that one avenue. And you want to market, you want to build your brand, just in general, guys.
Ryan, you've like been working at a shop for like over the last year. You've probably experienced a lot of new customers, new potential comic readers, maybe people who just want to like try it out a little bit, maybe didn't come back. Well, with WhatNot's involvement, do you think that that's going to be able to bridge a gap that even the standard LCS couldn't figure out? Because there are people who, when they get into comics, it's like a domino effect. That's how it was for me. I bought one book. I'm like, I'm just going to get one collectible book. Happened to you too, man. You got one key book. You're like, I'm not going to freaking grade comics. I'm not going to invest in, I'm not going to spec. I just want to read. Fast forward a year, look at all of us. More short boxes, more comics graded. This is a story that a lot of members of our community have. But not everybody experiences that because they don't have that one avenue to see that transition, to experience it one time.
I feel like when it comes to the brand new comic person who's fresh off the street, walking into a comic shop for the very first time, I feel like WhatNot might be a little intimidating. I think it's safer to grab like a graphic novel or something off the shelf. I've handed people so many different Batman books and all that off the shelf from our LCS. I think it's important to get people to cater what people really, like, we've had this conversation too. You want to make sure you hand the right book to the right person and not steer them down the wrong path. And I think it's important to figure out what you like before you start trying to.
Interesting. I like that point you just made because it could be intimidating. You're right. You have to download an app. You have to input your payment. But here's the thing. WhatNot has definitely been a collectors focused app because it's brand new. You know, you got to get the collectors. That's the big part of it, right? Like that's what the need is there. But to get members into comics, you don't just get them into buying. I mean, some members just want to invest. But hey, do you want to buy a $50 comic book? Well, you never bought one before and you actually want to read? You want to get into Batman? You're right. That's not the route to go. So do you see this being maybe an opportunity long term?
I think further down the road, like for me, you read a graphic novel, you're like, oh, that was fun. Let me get the next one. You get the next one. You get the next one. And then you're like, I want to get current on this. I want to read this as it's coming out. And that's the slow buildup of a comic nerd. And then that keeps going and going. And you're like, and you learn about variants and you learn about collectability. And then eventually, I think you can build up to somebody like really falling off the side of the cliff and into being a full-time like comic nerd collector person.
What do you think?
I think that's an interesting point because the LCS, like you said, is that entry door into it. And you're going to be influenced very much by whoever's operating that store. And when you don't know what you're doing when you're getting in there, which I've met many people because I had a store for a very short period of time, they always wanted to have references from you or any other employees, and it's very easy to steer that person down a route to get them started. And like you said, it's kind of a responsibility to take them down something they're going to want to read. So really asking those questions. So I think that's a really smart point as where WhatNot fits in to get, kind of people into it. Yeah, I don't really, it's maybe not there right now, but when you do get into the comics, like you said, having ease and accessibility and keeping it light and friendly and fun is where I think the app excels. It brings people in and keeps them too, because you're not always guaranteed you're going to keep that reader. But when you have the emotional attachment to other people and an environment like that, that's kind of that next step, I think, that past the entry level point that we were just discussing.
And I think that's why this is so cool, what WhatNot is doing now with the publishing. Because it's like, it's one thing, like, I'm somebody who's, whenever I see a QR code or someone's like, just download the app, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, I'm not going to do that. My phone is precious. I'm not going to stuff another app onto there. But if I'm looking at the wall of new books and I see some of these new WhatNot #1s on the wall, I would maybe be inclined to try one of those indie books. And you look through the book and there's an ad for, download the WhatNot app. You can get some new exclusive stuff. I think that's a perfect way to bridge that gap.
The entry point being a deterrent, that's for every application. So I totally agree with you. And I think that's also a very smart way to grow the community. But I'm also seeing an opportunity forming in this conversation that is, on one end, being met by WhatNot going into publishing, creating their own comic books, teaming up with artists, like fresh IPs that are being created, being purchased. And this podcast is going to get into a lot of that today. However, this right here is also showing a untapped market. There are LCSs closing out every single day, pretty much. Every year. It's like the new LCS that opened up, 95% of them are shut down by the end of the year. It's not the easiest medium to get into, and I completely agree with both of you. A big part of taking that first step is getting the recommendation and being kind of steered the right direction. And you have two options if you want to do that, if you don't have an LCS or someone who is a friend in the comic community. You can go and venture on the internet and be hit with 1,000, 10,000 options, and then you end up just going, it's just too much, I don't know where to start, and you don't, which is what a lot of people do.
Oh yeah.
They don't even take that first plunge. Or there's someone that they can trust, someone they follow, maybe they enjoy their content, someone that they may be influenced by because they trust their opinion. And that's the difference between WhatNot and these other platforms to sell, is that people are following sellers, but also they're part of their community. They're live. What you see is what you get. And this is something that sellers can start adapting. We right now are serving members on the app who are largely collector focused, who know comic books, of course. What about the other 90% of people who are going to be on this app in the next year? They're going to want to know what Batman comic to buy. They don't necessarily need to get a $50 Batman comic right now. But what they do need to get is a Batman that's maybe $4 off the shelf that they couldn't get somewhere else. And how many stores don't even know about WhatNot right now? But they will soon. Every convention where WhatNot is, they're gonna be very, very surprised to see this app that they were told maybe 6 months ago, a year ago, yeah, I should check it out. And now you see that WhatNot label on David Mack's artist banner, on Zoo Orzu's artist banner.
It's bigger than that, dude. When we walked into this con, you can't even walk in without like passing the giant. They have a whole section of the
Everyone
floor.
got a bag walking in with
Right?
the WhatNot logo
I saw
on
that
it.
too.
There's signage. For con, there's signage everywhere, guys. Everywhere. But I'm telling you, 90% of it had a WhatNot logo on it for this specific con, which was very interesting to see, considering all the past years I've ever done a convention. I've never seen that type of an imprint of any brand at any con like WhatNot's pushing right now.
Let's talk a little bit about what makes this form of selling comic books, attending community gatherings in this marketplace. Let's actually talk about the specifics, because there's a lot of members who may not have ever experienced WhatNot, and we're here just talking about this application that some will compare to like other giant applications that you can buy things from, like Amazon or eBay. This is unique. This is very different. And we should probably just like spell it out, what experiences are being had on this app, because we are active sellers on there. And what we're also seeing friends of the community do, and people we don't know who are finding a lot of success. Can you give them a rundown of what a stream is like for you, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think of it kind of this way when you go into it. The second you go live for the very first time, you just open up an online store for yourself.
Yeah.
That's what you did. You open up a platform for you to be exposed to the community and the world of people that you're trying to focus your sales to. So that's exactly what it is. That's exactly how it should be treated, guys, too, because it's fun and it's easy, and you can either be in front of the camera or not. You don't have to be. So some people aren't always comfortable in front of the camera, which is just fine because you can focus on just the item, all right? And that's going to be the thing that shines. And if you can look at that mentality, you can be at home and you can start something for yourself and put your time into it, and it will grow, it will flourish if you just water it with the time and effort you need to put into it.
So you're live on camera. You have individuals on the app who can be notified because you've scheduled a stream. Let's take them through the beginning.
Okay.
Let's walk them through it. So Jeff, you're on the app, Golden Age Guru. You're going to schedule a stream for yourself for next Saturday at 5 o'clock or something. Or better yet, let's actually talk about a stream you're going to do next Wednesday at 9 p.m. because you're there every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. You schedule a stream and you're going to add things into your storefront that you're going to set up for auction. You're going to load a bunch of books in, 30, 40 books that you're going to just let auction. Your stream starts. What happens? People are there. What happens?
Yeah, so people are there, like you said, people are there, your phone's streaming, you're ready to shine, and all you need to do is go to that little icon on your phone that has all the books you just uploaded, all right? You spent 30 minutes and just uploaded an entire inventory that you're going to sell in an hour's time, all right? So you click on it, you're like, hey, I am going to run Amazing Spider-Man 623. I'll start at $1 and I'll do 15 seconds, 20, 30, 45, whatever I want. Whatever.
1 minute, minute and a half, like... You can change it depending on what you want. And you can also have it so that if it goes to 0, like on eBay, it goes to 0. Whoever is the last person, if they snipe it, they're going to get it at 0, whatever it ends up at. Or the standard way, which is what kind of comes default, is if it gets to 1 second and someone bids, it goes back up to 10 seconds. And then it really goes to the highest bidder.
Yeah, exactly. The sudden death feature of just it's over is just a great option to really just build anticipation and get some excitement on a book, because when time's up, time's up.
Boys, issue number 7, The Trade Dress, Tyler Kirkham, limited to 1,500 printed, sudden death. This may be one of the best opportunities to get this book out of steel. Let's go.
And that default timer of 10 seconds extra is a great way too to just prolong a book, really give it its opportunity and chances to reach its maximum goal for you, and maybe even give a collector a deal if you get, so everyone's happy. So it's an awesome app, super simple. So you run this book, right? And you just continue down the line. You're like, okay, I just ran the Spider-Man book. It did well. You know what? I'm going to run another Spider-Man book because I have full control of my entire library I just uploaded. And on top of these auction books, you can put a storefront there where you have buy it nows. So you're not just fixed into this or pigeonholed into, I have to sell everything, started some auction. Hey, you have some books that you want your number on to be reached, then you have it there. You can have hundreds, thousands of items just sitting in this online warehouse that you have.
You have a audience that you're serving. So this has now gone from the vibe of eBay's convenience of set it and forget it, whatever it ends up, to you being in control of it on camera during the time it's going to go for with a live audience. And on one end, there's members doing this by themselves, in their room, just doing it. But then you can also go to LCSs that have been doing this. And Ryan, you've been helping out MillGeek stream in there. What's that experience been like? Because I've seen you sell a lot of comic books, but I've also seen you sell comic books off the wall for like cover price.
On Russ's Thursday stream, you mean? Yeah, he's specifically trying to bring, which I think is a really cool idea. He's trying to bring the comic shop onto the platform. So like Jeff was just explaining the buy it now section, Russ and I will take a bunch of the new books that came out that week and load them in there for whatever you would pay if you just walked in. So like if you don't have a shop nearby, you can go onto our Thursday stream, click onto the buy it now section, look for a comic you were trying to find but can't because you don't have a shop near you, and just buy it. You don't have to deal with the auction or anything like that. And we do run auctions as well. It's a mix of both, but that's part of the fun of this app too. As a viewer, is just popping onto a whole bunch of different streams and see what people do differently, and it's exciting because it's like hunting. Because if you can find the right room where maybe there's not enough people, and you might be able to grab some pretty cool books at a good deal.
Absolutely, and there's deals happening, and it gets to the point now where I'm kind of seeing where this is going in the next year or 2 years, and it's very clear that this is going to be a major competitor in the market space, and I think other sellers are realizing that too. And what that's doing is it's causing competition. And what competition does, it means how do you take care of the comic fam better, more? In comic books, it's very unique. You can't BS. You can't do people wrong. You have to not just be able to sleep at night. You want your community to be not just surprised with how well everything went. You want to go above and beyond. When they get that VF near mint, but really it looks better than a VF near mint, you won. And that's what you want your customers and your fans and your community to feel like with every purchase, because we're in like this pioneering stage with an app that's fresh in the comic space. And long term, those who have the most followers on this app, the largest community on this app a year or 2 years from now are going to benefit royally. And what that ends up doing in this landscape is it's causing the most comic karma that I've ever seen in my career. There is so many giveaways happening on this app. It went from when we started, hey, we'll do a giveaway here or there. And then it turned into, hey, can we budget to do a giveaway every stream?
Base Prime just won this signed TMNT 109, John Boy Myers, signature series variant.
Everyone across the board on the WhatNot Wednesday squad, it's like we're all hungry shopping to do giveaways. It's part of it now. How do we give more away? And now it's getting to the point where members are just doing giveaway streams. Just hook people up. Just give them comic books. Do right by other members. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that giveaway, like you said, it's another fun function of this app. So now you have auctions, you have buy nows, you have giveaways, okay? And like you said, that gifting process that you're seeing across this app, I've never seen, unless I was a 10 or 11, go to a comic book booth at a convention or a store and be given a comic. Like, hey, here you go, kiddo. Here's a Spidey book or whatever.
Yeah, here's a key book, man. Keep it bagged and boarded. Like I remember those experiences when I was younger.
Yeah, maybe you got a free comic if you were 10 or 11. This is you, because you're partaking in an environment of other peers and the excitement and joy that you see that the seller's having, the experience that the buyer's having, that we want to give stuff away. I give away 9 items yesterday in a 90-minute stream, every 10 minutes. Okay, so everybody loved that. I loved it. It felt great to do. And I'm not saying you have to do that, but you have the option of, hey, thank you. I appreciate you being here. And the organic growth that you can have on WhatNot, even if we're there 2 years, 3 years, any of us, and we have this big base we've grown, you make that commitment, which doesn't have to be very large. It literally is just consistency. And then the appeal of what you bring, you will grow, just hands down, because the people are hungry for new experiences and just the material that anyone can bring. And they're going to love you because you're diving in, you're being a part of what they're a part of.
Recommendation for members who are joining the WhatNot community for buying and or selling, because there's a lot of members who started buying comics again because of WhatNot, and some members who not only started buying, they've started their own accounts and they're going to start selling. You know, shout out Bobcat. We all know him. He did his first stream like a week ago. Fantastic. And he went from buying comics again to collecting comics again to now like being part of this community. And the networking that takes place. You don't have to have a giant Instagram. You don't have to have a big Facebook or a YouTube channel or make comic book themed content. All you need to do is do right by your community, hook people up, and then help your homies, help your friends. Some of the biggest growth that I've seen in this space are individuals who I didn't really know prior to WhatNot, and they start working with each other, and they start joining each other's streams. And then they start giving each other inventory to sell on each other's, and they start doing giveaways on each other's streams. And all of a sudden, these exclusives now are being done between stores that didn't even know each other. And now they're sharing exclusives and giving artists work and making more comics. And comics are now going up in a market where we're seeing publishers sell less comic books, make less books. More and more comics are being created. And this weekend, a publishing company was established officially. WhatNot Publishing is here. 4 different comic books, 4 different IPs, a creative team that's attached to the that have attachments to the Rick and Morty comic books. Wesley Snipes Kickstarter which I think is going right now or is ending soon, scooped up by WhatNot, is now going to be a WhatNot comics publishing IP and being produced under WhatNot. We have a dealer in the community that we all know and love, JPG, that Spider-Man booth. The owner is also a writer, teamed up with Steven, his good friend, and also, I don't know if you know this, I'm curious, do you know that JPG is a funk master, a DJ? Did you know this?
I did not know this.
Him and Steven are DJs, and we're going to get into that this very podcast, because this entire comic book that they created is based around music and their shared love of music and writing music for like the last 15 plus years. And being someone who has been serving the comic community for so long, to be given an opportunity to make a comic book, and then to have David Mack do covers for his own comic book, it's mind-blowing, because you don't see these types of opportunities happen. And the reason why it's happening is because this giant app that can be compared to many other giant apps that we all know, the kind of apps that you want to get a hold of them, you can't, there's no phone number. You can't, good luck trying to get a hold of Google, like these giant apps. WhatNot is in that realm, closer to that realm than an LCS is, But the WhatNot comics, these categories are all run by individuals who love the categories, who know the categories. And we have comic lovers, collectors, and readers who are on that staff. And they're the ones who are in charge. And that's why we're seeing so much attention in the comic space. That's why it's growing. It's growing because of WhatNot, and it's amazing. But let's also talk about the need for LCSs, comic artists, writers, creatives in this field who have not taken the steps to start managing their own production, their own content, their own creations. There's a lot of amazing creators that aren't necessarily, or would even call themselves business people, and they have to work with all these other companies to make their work be seen, so it can be sold, so they can make a living. And WhatNot is bridging that gap as well, and making it so simple for sellers to run their business.
Yeah, absolutely. And that simplicity also happens on the back end. So that back end is you collecting monies, you printing up invoices and getting everything straight, the address being correct. If you sell an item, payment is due immediately. Right. So no longer you hunting down a buyer. The book is paid for. So when you're done with your 1 hour stream, let's just say you went with, you jump over to your PC, you log into your account, and you can instantly create shipping labels because everything is paid for. Your shipping information is correct and updated because that's the seller. He hand put it in themselves. And now you can start packing. And in that 1 hour that you just spent streaming, you just spent the next hour packing and you're done. Money collected, books packed up, labels done, take it to the post office, clock out for the day.
Let's talk about how IG claim sales used to be. There's a lot of people who do IG claim sales. I love them. And shout out to the members who do them because there's nothing wrong with it. But doing them for so long, without even realizing, we're seeing the most difficult parts of selling live. And then we were hit with WhatNot. And then we realized, oh, wow, this is what it could be. What was it like on an IG claim sale? What were some of the difficulties that we experienced?
I'm thinking about, there were times we would all take our comics over to Jeff's to do a Golden Age Guru Instagram claim sale.
Which you'll still do sometimes.
Yeah, I'm
they're
going to
fun.
do one in about a week.
I gotta get ready for that. They're fun. It's fun to hang out. It's fun to talk to all the people on the stream. And you sell comics. It's similar-ish to the way you do it on WhatNot, but again, without a lot of the specific features because you're playing within the Instagram live stream format, which is not built for sales.
Not
and
for
all that
e-commerce.
sort of stuff.
No,
Yeah, exactly.
not at all.
So Jeff had to, build a rack and put stickers on there to say, like, you want this book. You say you want this book. You want that book. And then when it's all done, you have to individually reach out to everybody who bought something. And send them an email, say, hey, do you remember you bought this and this and this? Here's your invoice. Here's your price. Send me your email. You got to get in touch with everybody, and it's just a whole back and forth with everybody.
Walk them through that, Jeff.
Oh yeah, let me tell you. Okay, so I would do. We as a team would sell items, and we would sell maybe in 6-7 hours, like 7 hours of live streaming on your feet, and that's if we just did one day. We would maybe sell 300 items maybe as a team. Okay, I can push in 1 hour 60 items on WhatNot, okay? So think about that. And then doing 300 items will take me almost up to 2 weeks to finish invoicing, collecting payments.
All throughout the feed, by the way? We had to have somebody notate everything.
Oh yeah, every book had to have the handle name spelled correctly. Then I had to receive the email, send them a message to send me an email, so then I can then send them a payment link that they can then go through and pay with that payment, which then I have to make sure it was received, which then I'm ready now to start packing up books, get the order together, and like I said, that's like a 2+ week process, and like multiple people manpower. Like we're talking, I have 4 other people helping to just get this done in a timely fashion. So WhatNot is the one-stop shop of just ease for you if you want to keep it simple. Now, I'm not saying you don't try other avenues because you build your base. That's what we're doing, okay? But for the ease and simplicity, it doesn't get better. It just doesn't get easier and better than that.
Because as like a viewer on WhatNot, to even have a chance to bid on something, you already have to fill out your profile. You have to put your address in there. You have to put your email. To sign up, you have to put your email in. You have to put your payment information in. You can't bid on a book without having a valid card on file. Whereas in a claim sale environment, any random guy could just jump and go, oh, I want that one. And then like, okay, well, do you really want that one? And then you got to track them down afterwards. And they're like, oh, I wanted that other one. Or it's a mess.
Every time you're having to DM, you got to think about that. This is one person. It's going to take at least 3 DMs if the process goes smoothly. But then if there's an address change, then if there's a question, then and I also just want to know if you had something else. Like if you're dealing with 300 packages, if everybody just did that one time, that's 300 more DMs. It's like an entire day's worth of work. And if anything goes wrong, if USPS loses the item, if it gets damaged, the process, it just keeps on going. And by the way, yes, there's a fee to sell on WhatNot, but it's like almost half of what it is to sell on eBay. Boom.
I never sell on eBay. I have no clue.
I used to sell on eBay
You do, man.
for years. I have an eBay store, and when we transitioned to sell on WhatNot, we were keeping the eBay store strong, still doing auctions every week, and then we just decided to turn it off. Like we still have it, to have it because it's been up for a long time, but we have very few things listed there, and it's kind of an afterthought. There's just no reason. It's kind of it's just like it's an antique way of doing comic sales. If you want to do it just by yourself and you don't need a community, you don't want to put your face out there, you don't want to grow your brand, you just want to list. And shout out to my homies who do that. We know people. Their whole goal all week is to list 400 items. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. That's their grind. We know a lot of dealers who make a lot of money in comics, and their hustle is so damn real, and I respect every single one of them. But I can't do that, man. I can't do it. You go crazy. We have a friend. I'm not gonna say who it is, but you've seen his setup. The site. The thing that you have to do to like be able to list that many items, to be like going that quick, you have to have a setup that is so perfect, because like you'll go crazy. It's just so much work, and it's looking at a screen. And our homie, he sits in front of like 6 screens. He has a TV going on one. He has a video game TV up here where he can just play his N64, whatever he wants to play at the time. He has his eBay screen always up, his email always up. He has his like analytics always up. And then his entire room is organized inventory, every square inch, because he's going through 300 items to 500 items a week.
Yeah, he's a machine. I mean, he is a machine. So not only do you have to have the setup, but you also have the mindset to do that, because that requires a very specific type of person, okay? And I feel like the people who are in comics generally aren't that type of person. They're more creative a little bit. They're a little less organized at times.
Maybe they want to talk about comics a little bit. Maybe. I enjoy it.
I do.
Clearly.
But
Clearly.
But but the point that we're making is that there are members who have found a way to win and to grow communities and to get more comics out there, because that's what it's about. It's about getting more funny books around. Because I want more funny books personally. I can't get enough of them. I don't know about you guys. I just want more comics. I know there's a lot of you who want more comics as well. Comment down below if you want more comics. So that's what makes WhatNot exciting, is that we have a opportunity for people to have new entry into this medium, creators, artists, but also new readers. And eventually, this is going to be a spot that if you're an LCS owner and you're not on WhatNot, you got to be doing something. Every LCS owner knows that if you're not on WhatNot, you got to be on something else. But if you're not on like social, then yeah, you're probably going to fail. You know, you can't just be an LCS and not utilize the internet. There's a reason why LCSs struggle. It's because you can't really depend on your nearby city unless you're in a major city. And even then, it's pretty damn difficult.
It's tough. It's super competitive out there because you might be one shop for a moment, but the second there's some success with you at all, you know you have 2-3 competitors right around the corner. Because comics are, to many collectors, an exciting and huge venture for them. And like, hey, I can own a shop. That's an amazing idea, right? For a true fan, they want to open up a shop and enjoy comics all around them. But it's work. So to have been established already for years, maybe you've been around 20, 30 years. So you're lucky enough to have that. But 99% of other people in shops are going to have another base, a website, an online platform of some kind to help. Not saying you have to have it, but if you want the extra help, it's there, it's accessible, it's easy to get into, and there's really not a reason to not try it.
Comic fam, if you have downloaded WhatNot and have experienced it, let me know in the chat, but do your fellow Comic fam members solid and let them know about your experience. The good, the bad, anything, you know, full honesty here. The app is growing. I'm very excited, and thank you both for being here. We're covering something really special. The launching of a new publication company. WhatNot Publishing is here. The comic Ashcan has been distributed this weekend. We've seen it. We've read it. The comics are being created, and it's an exciting time. Fire Guy Ryan.
Hello.
We were chatting last week, preparing for what was about to drop, the information, the announcements, and what research did we end up doing on YouTube? Because we didn't look up just any publisher. We went back to the 90s. We were inspired by this day.
Little known publisher. Yeah, you might not have heard of it. It's called Image.
Image Comics. Founders Day, you know, is a group of creators. You already know who they are, I'm sure. But they were interested in changing the industry. They weren't as excited about what was happening, specifically between the big two, Marvel and DC. And they quit, like literally left the place of work and said to their bosses that we're leaving, we're taking artists and starting our own thing because we want to serve our community differently. And that's the vibes we got from this, wasn't it?
I did. I certainly did.
WhatNot Comics Publishing. WhatNot Publishing has been announced, and we have co-founders here at the table. Hot damn, comic fam. Who do we have, Fire Guy Ryan?
We are, of course, talking with Michael Calero and Kevin Rodatelli.
Michael, can you please take over? Because you're not just publishing comics. You're an active writer in this. We have an Ashcan here that debuted, Alpha Betas, Quested, and I'm seeing your credits all over the place. Let's chat. What is WhatNot Publishing doing?
As awesome as to hear it said in the same idea as Image Comics, we're starting something that we hope can do something different in this industry. Obviously, those are lofty shoes to fill, and that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to do something completely different, blaze our own path with this. But those kind of comparisons aren't like lost on us. Like those are the kind of things that we see, and we're like, that's what the industry needs right now, sure, to some degree. And there's plenty of publishers doing amazing work, but what we kind of set out is like, let's do the things that other publishers might be, you know, a little bit more conservative to try. Let's not worry about how this looks from a PR standpoint and just do the comics that we want to make, do fun books, do exciting projects that maybe wouldn't happen anywhere else. My name being on this book was a product of, this started out as I was coming out of Starburns Industries Press, which was the publishing arm of Starburns Industries, who did Rick and Morty, HBO's Animals, animation studio, really great people. We were doing books with them for a number of years, and we started to get a lot of projects that didn't fit the Starburns vibe. It's a very specific style. And so we started saying, okay, myself and Trevor Richardson, one of the other co-founders, we were saying, well, let's start building the place where this can work. You know, we had Alpha Betas, which was in production already as an animation. So that was kind of just a book that made a lot of sense. Trevor and myself do artwork on that.
Alpha Betas, it's fantastic. I got to read the first few issues, and I'm noticing here at the end of this preview that it's being announced as the first release, Alpha Betas. How this came together so quickly. What has your last 8-9 months been like? Like, Kevin, you've probably been through a whirlwind with all this.
Yeah, dude. Just
For me, comic book has been like a wild journey. It's kind of weird because if I go back to the beginning, I'm from Quebec. That's the accent, like French Canadian. And I was not into comic book at first when I was like maybe 12. I was like, comic books just like punches. I had like the whole Batman TV show in mind, as any kid that is not into comic book, into this world, I guess. And I did go to watch the movie Watchmen by Zack Snyder, and that was like an eye opener. I was like, man, comic book can be something more than just punches. There was content, there was like energy, there was something, there was a message about it. So I did go to my local comic book shop and grab the Watchmen graphic novel.
There you go.
And boom, I was like, I need to read more. And I started to like buy comic book, crazy. Mom, can I have some money? And then at 16 years old, actually, I did buy my first share into the local comic book store. And I started to be a comic book store owner. And work in comic book store, have my own share of the company, and really understand like the business, the distribution, working with Diamond as a retailer, and really understanding the what was the process to be a publisher. And I was really interested to build up a business because I've always been like a creative guy and wanted to work into film and stuff like that. But yeah, I did all of it, And one thing that always come back when you're a fan, you're a retailer, you're a creator, or a publisher, because I did all four, it's community. And that's what I love about WhatNot. It's the community all together, one place, and that can meet together. Like creators, readers, retailers, they're all together. And that's the first time that I really feel it in the comic book industry since I'm there. It's like, it's not like separated by group. Like everyone are part of one party. And that's what I love about WhatNot. And that's why I wanted to launch this thing and be part of it, because I feel like WhatNot is changing the game and bringing back everyone together and going back to this like energy that we had in the 90s. I was not there. I'm 25, but from what I saw from the documentary, yeah, pretty old Michael Keller right there.
Pretty old Michael Keller. That's now the byline.
No, he's not that old. But yeah, that's what I want to live, actually. Like for everyone that was not there at that time, and we were kind of like, everyone that is into comic book, we saw that era like on footage or just like article or like the sales number and stuff like that. I want to be one of those guys. Well, of course, it's kind of really ambitious, but that could contribute to bring back that vibe, and just like bring it to a next generation, just like bring comic book to a level that it should be, because comic book is the base of entertainment right now if we look at the box office numbers.
That's true. I mean, we were chatting with Jack DeMeo, and that's actually one of the things that was most exciting about this launch for me, is that WhatNot as a company is filled with comic collectors, readers, and lovers, right? And retailers, and now publishers, and people who've done this in the mainstream as well. This is like in a good way, a very dangerous thing, because we have the right minds behind these titles, and they're going to cater to the parts of the community that's been, to many, been lacking. And that's also been really holding it up and keeping it alive. And that's a lot of the comic family that we describe here on the show. Ryan, you got a chance to read Alpha Betas. There's a brief preview. I did as well.
Not enough of it, yeah.
Not enough is a good way to say it.
It's a tease. It's a very short but punchy tease of this.
There are short previews of 4 different series in this issue that we have. So you get maybe 2-3 pages, just a taste. And yeah, we got 3 pages here of Alpha Betas #1. And it might be my favorite.
It's my favorite too. I'm excited. This is my first one. But here's the thing though. The other, I would say you get more from the Alpha Betas in preview in this than any of the others. I'm interested to know what's going on in all the others, and we're going to be talking about that with various members of the creative team. But definite Rick and Morty vibes, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And it makes sense.
It makes sense. It started out as there was a pilot that aired last year, produced by 3 Black Dot and Starburns Industries, obviously the original studio behind Rick and Morty.
Sure.
So there's that DNA is baked into it. It is definitely also a product of Kyle Stark's, his wit and his kind of that comedy he can bring on to comics, which is super hard to do. It's very hard to write comedy comics and make them actually punchy.
And for those who don't know, Kyle, who's not here today.
Yeah, he's not here, sadly.
But a major contributor to Rick and Morty.
Major contributor to the comic books, Rick and Morty. He also has a new series at Image Comics that's just absolutely amazing. I hate this place, yes.
He also did 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton.
So good.
Oh,
hilarious. Yeah, that like you said, it's really hard to do. Like they're called comic books, and it should be easier to make like some that are funny. but it's a hard balance to strike. And when you get like a good writer who can really nail the humor, it makes it stand out that much more.
I have a friend who plays a lot of multiplayer games, and while they are playing with their friends, I give them the space because it's a thing. They're together. There's 5-6 people on their squad, and I see a different version of themselves. They're yelling at their friends. They're totally joking around. They're giving them a lot of zazz, and I'm getting that vibe from alpha betas. This right here is like if you're in this multiverse, this video game verse with your homies, just chilling. This is what goes on, and it's playing out in a Rick and Morty vibe.
Yeah, you're not wrong. We're definitely watching a group of 4 friends play an online game together. And we, at least in these few pages, we don't get any glimpse of what they're actually like, off screen, off game.
But we do know it's coming out in October, and we're going to find out. But also, we have to talk about another title, Exiled. This right here was came out of nowhere that this would be announced this week. I heard rumors that this may be happening, but it's in the preview. Wesley Snipes is attached.
Yes.
Can you explain?
So I'll let Kevin start that one out because he was the one who brought this to us.
Did Wesley Snipes just see Berserker and go, I need that? Because he is drawing himself in his book.
Yeah, that's what he did. The story is so great. Like the 2 guys working on that, Keith and Adam, nail it with Wesley. Wesley is actually really a good writer. He's passionate about the project, and the guys are nailing it. It's really good stories. If you are into 7, Blade Runner, you're gonna love that book. As a publisher, maybe 8 hours of my day is actually just looking around what people are doing. Okay. And I saw that thing online. I was like, Wesley Snipes is doing a comic book? Blade is doing a comic book. Who's the publisher? I go, it's a Kickstarter?
It's a Kickstarter.
Yes.
So you scooped him up.
Yeah, I was like, I messenger that guy now.
It's like, hey, welcome to WhatNot, Wesley Snipes. Let's go.
And it was super quick. Like I did talk with Adam, and Adam was like, yeah, let's do it. It just makes sense. We need to do it. And we had few calls and stuff like that. And the connection with those guys is just perfect. Like they understand the business model of WhatNot and what we want to build with WhatNot. So it's like perfect synergy with the guys. And Wesley Snipe is super cool. It's like making videos for the promos. Like you really want a comic book to succeed. You really want to start a franchise. He is doing everything to push this as a franchise. We already have the first 6 issues miniseries in production, plus a prequel one-shot already in production. So the guys are really pushing it super far.
And that was actually kind of where this started at. Was the original approach was we wanted to do a special release for their Kickstarter. Yep. Yeah, that was the first.
It wasn't
objective. It wasn't originally about doing a full series. We wanted to do a special release. We knew WhatNot would be interested in doing that. And then speaking about that, it just started to make sense. We found out they were doing this very beautiful release through Kickstarter that they're funding right now. They had no plans for doing single issues through comic book stores, and we're like, okay, well, we're launching this, and we can help with that. This is perfect. That was one of the things that really made sense when things just always kind of kept falling into place. Alpha Betas was something we were working on already, and it just made sense as the first title. Exiled, it was something where we can provide something and we can make it special in a different way than the Kickstarter can. And at the same time, both things.
And it does fit with the WhatNot brand, with all the stuff they do with Fan Expo, with the actors and stuff like that. Like we bring in Wesley Snipe, and after, who's going to be the next actor or big Hollywood people that are going to work with us? We don't know.
This right here, this gets Wesley Snipes in the door, and it also means that we're going to see, if this is just one example of an actor who doesn't typically do a whole lot of public appearances, doesn't do a whole lot of signings.
He's very private.
The first Marvel superhero, right? To be on screen.
It is.
Blade, I believe, is the first.
Modern, the modern iteration
in the modern era, right? Yeah. And we only get a taste of it, but clearly this is a violent book, and it discusses in the preview the Red Friday attack.
Right. Again, this is a really, really small preview, and it's almost frustrating.
I want more.
Exactly, because you're turning the pages, and you're like, what's happening? You turn the page, you get a little bit of explanation. You turn the page, it's the next book. So you just get a taste, but it's enough to make you want to figure out what's happening.
But talk about this 2-page spread.
Right. He's witnessing this horrible event that happens that, dissolves people's bones.
That's right.
But not him. He's in the room. He's the only person that survives. And the overall mystery that I can tell from this is going to be why.
That is a big part of this story.
Okay.
Yes.
The Exile.
Right?
The Exiled, coming out in January 2023.
And the thing that I love about it is that you can't not read it with his voice in your head. Like as you're reading it, you're like, oh yeah, I'm reading this in Wesley Snipes' voice.
I have to assume that because WhatNot's involvement and the people who are behind the curtain who understand what collectors want, you know, I'm thinking like Blade homages need to happen. You know, things like whatever we can get away with. Are you finding that these kind of conversations are pretty easy with creators? Like, hey, we know what the collectors want. This is what they want. Let's give it to them.
There's things that are just naturally gonna like be the first thing you think of. Obviously, like the Blade homage is just something you immediately like, oh yes, that would be amazing.
But I would imagine a lot of people would say no to that. Like a lot of actors like, no, can't touch it, you know.
There are definitely like those things that you have to balance out with like when does an homage become just trying to like
too much,
steal a fan base.
Sure.
Like that's not what we want to do. We want to, if we're going to homage something, we want it to be like a really respectful homage to that.
Of course.
And at the same time, like something that the artists really want to do too. I mean, there's artists that will not want to do an homage and will want to do something completely original. And we want to encourage that just as much as the homages.
So Alpha Betas being the first launching title of WhatNot Publishing, this had a really interesting start that had YouTube personalities attached.
Yeah, so the animated series itself was already in production with Starburns before the press side got involved, and what we came to the table with was, what do you want to do with this? What are some like kind of dream things you want to do with this series? And a comic book was just a natural thing for this.
I'm hoping that more and more that happens. They're like, oh, I'm doing an animation, and then you're like, well, hold on. Do you want a comic book? A whole series? You can go to Comic-Con and meet your fans and they can get a more in-depth version of their story?
Yeah, and the thing that's great is that, you know, the people behind the animation, you know, they, even though they're not comic book guys, they're still in this ecosystem. You know, being YouTube gaming and content creators, a lot of their fan base, there is that bleed through of that. And, you know, so someone like Vanos Gaming, who has just a huge following on YouTube, those fans, when they saw we did an animatic trailer to kind of preview this.
Millions of views.
So the episode itself, the pilot, had 7 million views within, I believe, like maybe a few days. So just an insane response. And immediately all of the fans were like, what's the next thing? And we had this already in production at that point. And that became the kind of the 1-2 punch, was like, hey, here's this comic book that we're working on. That video just instantly blew up and people started asking for more. And they did voices for this scene here. If you go on YouTube, there's a animatic version of it that you can listen to the whole thing. And so it was a really great start to like a book series that's based off of animation. And then we got to run with it, Kyle and myself, like, how do we make this animation that's so punchy, how do we turn that into a comic book that is equally interesting?
And the first launch of a new comic publishing company is an option title. Hot damn, comic fam. That's how WhatNot is doing it. Fire Guy Ryan in the house. Any last words about what you are seeing here?
Makes me want to go watch it. You know?
Yes.
It's definitely not something I would seek out and watch on my own, but after reading the comic, I am very much like happy to admit that I was wrong. I'm gonna go check this out on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm definitely not like a comedy guy in my comics. I'm a horror guy. I like weird stuff, but when I laugh, it matters. And I was sitting here, and I also have to point out there's a Wesley Snipes joke in this comic.
There is.
Was that separate?
Absolutely separate. And it
really?
No, it's absolutely.
Yeah, totally, dude.
It feels natural. It fits. It works
perfect.
on its own. Yeah.
At the time when we made this, we hadn't actually come together as an editorial team.
Oh, okay.
Trevor and myself were working separately at this time. And so when we made this book and that joke was in there and it happens to be in this perfect, you know, lineup of pages, we put them next to each other like, wow, that's perfect. It goes right into a Wesley Snipes comic.
It's pretty
next
crazy.
page. Yeah.
The next page. And from my understanding, I don't know if this is okay to say, but like, I don't think the Exiled was planned to be in here.
Not at all.
Until recently.
The Exiled is of the 4 books, the Exiled is the most recent addition to our lineup. And it came together, just Adam specifically is amazing to work with. It was just instantly we hit it
Perfect
off.
match.
Like, this is a perfect match. So it's just gone so much smoother than just any other.
Super quick.
Yeah.
You know, we just set up like a cool thing for San Diego Comic-Con with the Exiled people and Wesley Snipe, of course. So just teasing a little bit for everyone going to be at San Diego Comic-Con. We're going to do something super cool with Wesley.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to be on place, maybe live on WhatNot. We don't know.
That's right. Comic Time 101 on WhatNot, Comic Fam. Let's do it.
That's his first time.
Comic Fam, WhatNot, Publishing, Michael Calero, Kevin Rodatelli. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Michael Calero,
Yes.
Thomas Parson. You guys wrote a book called Quested.
We did.
This is a fun book, man.
We think so.
You gave us a little bit of a tease, and you said that you think you know.
I think
why
I know
like
why
this.
you like it.
Be real. Why
And
do
the
you think?
reason,
We just met, Michael. How do you know me so well?
How I've always explained this book and the original inception of it is I wanted to make Hellboy meets Legend of Zelda.
Okay.
And I see the tattoo.
Oh, the tattoo gave it away.
Yeah.
Hellboy meets
Perceptive.
Legend of Zelda.
Yes.
Interesting. All right, so Quested, this is a book that both of you put together.
Yes.
Tell me what you can about it, because we're seeing an introduction of a character who happens to be on the preview of the Ashcan.
Our copy, anyway.
Our
the pink
copies,
one.
yeah. There's different copies, right? But the ones that we got, so that was the first one I was like, navigating to. What is this? And we have a new character here who is just entering the scene strong.
Yeah.
Just chopping heads to save a princess.
Yeah,
So the Zelda analogy.
Yeah, so that was the thing is like the origin of it. There's a few things. I've always been a big RPG fan.
There we go.
And when you start an RPG, you put the name in of like who your character is. This was the character that I was in these games. This is that was where this started.
No kidding.
And
I was the boring guy. I always put my own name in.
yeah, I know this was the character, and it became a thing where playing games like Legend of Zelda, I always thought it was funny, this idea of this character just showing up to someone's dungeon and just destroying all of these minions and this stuff, like uninvited, just coming and destroying everything. And that's what I wanted to start the episode with, or the issue with, was here's this character busting up a dungeon. And because it is a comedy action book and there is a lot of like kind of tongue-in-cheek spoofing of that genre, it just felt really great to like go straight from that. And we have this kind of joke set up, and you go straight into this crazy action scene, and then it goes right back into this like how ridiculous this character is.
Oh, I love it. I mean, we're seeing a very friendly vibe. I mean, we've read some books recently that like this style of very, very vibrant, but still dark. It's still mature. I mean, we're seeing like yellow blood, but it's still blood nonetheless.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you mentioned yellow, because the first thing I think of when I flip this page and get to this book is colors.
Yeah.
Like the art and the colors in here really grab me. And it does a good job of kind of letting your guard down and thinking that you might be getting in for like a not so violent book, especially because it starts with people playing cards, even though one of them is in a cage.
I know. It was
Still relatively fun.
A princess captured. So, Thomas, what has this creative process been like with Michael?
Mike and I actually been friends for like 18 years.
Yeah, probably it's a long time.
18 years. Okay.
Yeah, we go way back.
And we've always just enjoyed kind of picking apart our favorite comics and novels and movies and cartoons and stuff like that, and just talking about the writing aspect of it. Mike's been much more active in writing, and I've had other careers, so I haven't written as much, but have had a lot of ideas. So we've been partners for years of just sharing ideas with each other and then getting feedback. And so he called me with this idea at the beginning of the pandemic, I think, right?
Yeah, it was 2020 that I started producing it with the artist Kit Wallace.
Yeah.
We were just doing character designs at that point. So it was just a concept and some character designs was all that I came to the table with him.
Well, what was that call like? Because I have this idea. Was it kind of how you set it up? Like, Link is, someone's going to come in here, just bash through the door, and you have to deal with them?
Our conversations always meander so randomly. But I mean, he called with the purpose of, hey, I've got this story I'm working on. I want your feedback on it. I want some ideas. I'm struggling with a few parts of it, and I think you might be able to help me figure that out. And about 2.5 hours later, we had outlined, I think, the first 6 issues.
It was the first story arc.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's really great about it, is that, like you mentioned, I'll call him with just one simple thing of like, hey, I can't figure out this line, I can't figure out this scene, and then by the end of the conversation, we've plotted out 3 different storylines, and it was one of those things where at the point we got. Even in that first conversation, like, you have to make this with me. I can't not have you be a part of this process now, because so much of your sensibility is baked into it now that it's partly yours.
Position yourself in to be co-writer. I like that.
Well, I didn't really intend to. At the end of the we had probably at least 24 to 50, I don't know, conversations like that over the years
Yeah.
that we've known each other. And it was the first time Mike was really serious. I mean, he had said it in the past, like, I want you to write something with me. Like, I think you should write on this story with me or whatever. And it was the first time where it was like a seriousness in his voice. Like, it wasn't even an option.
It wasn't a question.
No, it wasn't a question. He was like,
demand.
you're writing this with me. And so we set up some meetings, and we actually started outlining the scripts for the issues. And then we wrote the first issue and then the second issue, and got him to our artist Kit, who just knocks it out of the park. His art is so unique and so gorgeous. You've mentioned the colors. His coloring sensibility is just insane. It's been a fun process to just learn how to write comics with Mike, and then to see what Kit produces, because we got this vision in our mind, and then we write it on a script and hand it to Kit, and then he gives us pages back, and we're like, how did he read?
Yeah, he's a just a pleasure to work. I'm a illustrator myself, so almost everything I've worked on, I usually will just draw myself. And it's one of the first times where I really felt absolute trust in the artist that I was working with, that I couldn't do it better than that. There's no reason I could ever find to draw this book, because he does it so perfectly to what we're envisioning.
That's a good point. I mean, every time I hear any kind of interview between comic creators, and they always say, like, I wrote it down and I sent it off, and I never imagined what it would look like when I got it back. And I feel like that's got to be like the most rewarding, interesting part of creating something, especially something collaborative like that. Like, it's different to write a novel. Like, that's all you.
Right.
The thing that's funny about that is I have the same idea, just a little different. I'm like, how is this going to be different than what I pictured? I don't think like, I didn't envision how this would look. It's always like, what is going to be the thing that I'm going to be like, oh man, do I have to ask for a change on this? Or like, this didn't, like the artist did something different than I had in my mind. Almost every panel was exactly what I had hoped he would do with it. He obviously still surprises me every issue because the style is so unique, but it is always like exactly what the page should have.
Awesome. Quested debuting in December of this year, before year end. We're going to be seeing a lot from this title. I imagine there's going to be stores lining up to do variants with this character on it.
Speaking of variants, we have two really cool variants that I'm really excited about. One is in the back of the book. It's kind of like a little, and on the W in the front is from Kim Jacinto, who's a really amazing artist for Marvel. He just did a bunch of X-Men 2099 designs that have been kind of making their way around the internet. And Jim Mahfood is also doing a cover for it.
You got Jim Mahfood? Oh, snap. Kudos for getting Jim. He needs to be doing so much more.
Oh, there's more. We have
fantastic.
some really cool stuff we're going to talk about with Jim.
And his cover is amazing. It's gorgeous.
Oh, my goodness. What a way to end this conversation about Quested. Can't have gotten more excited about it, getting Jim Mahfood on the title. Any last things you want to say to the comic fam about what is coming, whether it's with Quested or WhatNot Publishing?
I think for us, it's where we're going with these titles. Like, we have some really cool plans with everything. Quested, especially for us, this is not like a one and done kind of thing for us. We have some really great story arcs, and there are a lot of things we want to expand and bring people into that process. And like, we talk about community for comic books. This is a book that from the very beginning, we were trying to figure out, how do we make this more than just us putting a book into the world and just like having it be released. The book itself has been done for a very long time. And we were waiting for something like this to really come together, where it's like, this is the perfect place for it. And so we're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff with WhatNot for that title specifically.
Yeah, we really want to engage people into the world that we're creating Quested, more than just the comics, and a bunch of other avenues. And we've got some ideas for that, so it should be neat.
And one last thing, I would be a terrible guest to not present.
What do we got?
This is for you guys. This is one of each cover.
Oh, fantastic.
Of all new stuff.
Oh, look at that. And we have a special cover with each of the different titles that are coming out, and we have a full cover of Ninja Fun.
That's kind of a special release. Since David Mack was here, we decided to do a full cover.
Amazing. Look at that.
Oh yeah,
they're all foiled. They look great. And then there's this little extra special. We alpha betas you.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, is that me?
Yes, that's you.
Oh my gosh. Comic fam, what is my life? WhatNot Publishing is here. Thank you guys.
All right, awesome. Thank you for having us.
I have known Fire Guy Ryan for years, and this gentleman, believe it or not, does not care for music, except for one genre, and it is
funk. We have bonded over our love for funk.
I see what you're doing now.
We're here to talk about Ninja Funk. We have the creative team, one of 4 announced published books, the first published books by WhatNot Publishing. Ryan, introduce them.
Well, okay, I can do that. We have co-writers, JPG and Steve Schuett. And we also have Rob Cannon over here.
JPG, owner of Street Level Heroes and founder of that Spider-Man booth, a dealer. I remember following you way back in the day when you were bringing like claw machines. Oh my gosh, similar to what WhatNot's doing on the con scene right now, but like claw machines that were filled with graded comics that people can go and try to, it's not gambling, but it's like, it's a fun chance to try to win something. You've been always so innovative in this space.
Well, thank you.
And now you've flipped the switch and you wrote a comic book. Explain what did we get here? Because Ninja Funk, we got a taste. And I'm titillated. I got him. Tell me about Ninja Funk, baby.
Okay, first off, Ninja Funk is written in the language of music. So with that setting, the universe is off key, out of key, and the dissonant frequencies are killing the life forces throughout the universe. Ninja Funk is trying to bring the universe back to true harmony through the eternal light. And they have, like resistance for those that want to keep the status quo and keep things as is. And what we want the readers to choose like who's right and who's wrong, or just choose their version of how this thing should be done.
What was your thoughts about the intro? Because we both were hit with pages of this book, courtesy of the Ashcan release at Denver Fan Expo, and my jaw dropped. The art is fantastic. It's stunning. This is something that if I saw just as a standard previewed comic book, I would be adding to my pull list.
Right, yeah, the art in here, by the way, Alex Regal. Terrific
Alex
artwork.
Regal, thank you.
And he works fast. Holy God. That guy's busting
incredible.
out pages like crazy.
This comic grabbed me. This whole ash can has 4 different like chunks of each of the WhatNot original comics that are coming out, and Ninja Funk kind of grabbed me in the specific way because it was the one that made, this is going to sound mean, but this is the one that made the least sense to me. I really had to like read this over and over and try to like, okay, this, because it's silent. There's no
You
dialogue.
weren't even really reading.
Well, I'm looking at pictures, right?
You're
that's a sort of
interpreting
reading.
the pictures,
Yeah.
and it's like an apocalyptic event that we're seeing.
Right? I'm trying to decipher what's happening, and I think you're right. There's some sort of impact happening, and then you turn the page and you get this intense explosion, double page spread here that I quite like.
Yeah, well, when you read the whole book, it'll make way more sense.
But it's the good kind of make no sense, right? Like I read this and I go, like, I need it to make sense.
No,
Right,
we want that.
You're thirsty for an explanation now.
Right.
That's your idea with the ash cans. So you're like, what happens? I gotta buy the book. That's the idea.
That's the technique.
So I was told by AKA Mr. Bolo, also known as
Shout
Jack
out, Bolo.
DeMeo. He said that you guys had a conversation where it just came up that you had been working on this comic book with a good friend of yours. Is that friend Steve?
This is Steve Schuett. We actually have a DJ group. We are called Ninja Funk, and we've been DJing for like 10 years, making music. And we actually have
Your
a
DJ
soundtrack.
name is Ninja Funk.
Yes.
And there's a soundtrack.
And there's a soundtrack to this.
Oh, so what you're telling me is that you are going to relive the funk out of your comic book?
Exactly.
Wow.
I did not know that We Live did that until someone told me. I was like, yeah, we got music. They're like, oh, like We Live? I was like, oh, okay. Shout out We Live. You guys are awesome.
Killing the game.
Just super excited about doing this and like kind of creating the music and kind of putting it together with the comic. I know it's not inside the preview right now, but what we're doing is incorporating music and having a QR code. So when you do read it and you get to a crazy scene, like that big explosion or something like that, we have some music that actually matches that vibe. And so you can just go hit the QR code, goes to Spotify or whatever platform you want, and then you can kind of get that new experience that way.
How long have you guys been making music together?
Man, a long time, like probably over 9-10 years now. We went to the same music school together. Yeah, Icon Collective, you guys are awesome. And that's kind of where we learned the the language of music, and with JPG's like background in comics and my background in music growing up and living. I'm originally from Alaska, and that's kind of how I created the Laser Wolf character. And just like different, aspects of things in my life and his life, from his cat, which is Wolfgang right there. Shout out Wolfgang.
Oh, it's your cat
Yeah,
that
it's
you
his
put
cat,
into
yeah.
your comic. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, Wolfgang
I like
is
that.
awesome. And so just like, things like when we would DJ and practice before a show, like Wolfgang would go under the table, like by the speakers, and it would be like super loud. And he'd be like he wouldn't want to leave, but he'd put his like paws over his head like this and just be like, I just want to like, hang out with you guys. And I'm like, this guy's like a comic book character, so that kind of just, one thing led to another. Our tagline that we would have, especially when we play shows is, we're here to save the universe from bad music. We even had like these glasses where we would like make and connect them to like a headband. And we kind of turned ourselves into like superheroes per se, and I've always been obsessed with like ninjas. Growing up, I was a ninja for Halloween like 7 years in a row, and my mom was just like, this kid is outrageous right now. What is he thinking?
Wow. So we got 2 DJs causing a ruckus. You got a cat who is probably doing what Butch does on the show.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
It kind of becomes a third member. I imagine the editor of this team has to like play a pretty damn big role to keep this all organized and fluid. Rob, is that where you come in?
He is amazing, first off.
Yeah, so how it kind of happened was weird. Like when Kevin, obviously this book wasn't whipped out in the past 8 months, so we've been kind of working on this deal. The artwork and a lot of the pre-existing writing was there already. And so when Jack brought this to Kevin was like, okay, we need to have this in our premiere lineup. I'm like, okay, cool. And I looked at the artwork, I'm like, that's awesome. And I've always been real gentle about this, because the guy knows what a good comic book is. Like, he's been in the space for a long time. He knows what makes a great comic book. But we look at this book in the state that it was when they brought it to us, and we're like, this is like a diamond in the rough. We gotta chip off some edges. And I'm helping JPG get his tool set together, because I've been making comic books in the indie space for like over 10 years, very long time, books you've never heard of before. But that's given me the experience to kind of like have the instincts to look at what's going on and go, okay, how can we improve this? Because like the stuff that's there, that's under the surface, is fantastic. I love it. There's like this crazy psychedelic pseudo-religious thing going on, and like you can see the artwork. This is why we chose these pages, right? The expressiveness of the artwork and the amount of action in those pages, on top of the content being like, what the hell's going on? There's this huge event, is like, it's a hype tool, right? So, and I think these are the pages that we're going to take out one of those and be expanded. So the content in the final book is going to be a little different from that, but like in a good way. It kind of makes it clearer what's happening visually, so we don't have to rely on narration and dialogue.
It's like a movie trailer, like where they show you shit.
Right.
That's not actually going to be in the comic book.
And they always say, I always say,
one of the pages.
At least, Kevin's talked with me about this too, is, you can always tell if a movie's going to be bad if they show too much of it in the trailer. And so this is kind of a way of us just like, yeah, you like this, don't you? You want to see more?
Kind of making a statement. No, so
a little
knowing
bit.
This info drop about all this in this book that we would not have been able to figure out what the page is. What are your thoughts now?
I almost feel like gross that worked on me. Like they got me with this fake, fake extra pages and stuff in here.
It's not fake though. Like the content's going to be there. Like the things still happen the same way. It's just going to be like more expanded upon.
Excellent.
So,
question though, is the whole issue going to be silent?
No.
Okay.
No. And that part of that is because we're like reworking the dialogue, and like there's just so much going on visually that you can tell pretty much what's happening, in the grand scheme of things, just by the artwork alone. So we felt comfortable doing that.
I get the sense from this page in particular that maybe something is happening here that like is super loud and they can't be heard anyway.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, because I don't know what's happening in this image. It looks like some kind of energy is being shot out of whatever's floating up above them.
Looks like it's a house or something that's about to collide with a planet.
Right? That's part of the fun of reading at least a silent, 4 pages like this.
It's pretty fun. I can't wait for you guys to actually see what all that stuff is. It's a really fun issue.
Can we talk about David Mack?
Oh.
How does it feel to have a David Mack cover on your cover A?
Oh man, it was a dream. When I acquired him, he didn't even know how happy I was. I was like, he's like, oh, he said yes. I was like, okay, thank you, sir.
You should have seen Ryan's face when he saw that you had David Mack.
A little bit of a fanboy, yeah. I know he likes to draw cats in particular. I've seen a lot of that on his Instagram, so I was like, seeing this cover, it pops.
I love that the cat kind of takes up most of the artwork there.
Right?
So, but it's awesome.
Oh, you know what? Actually, this is what I meant to say is on the ash can. I'm not sure if this is cover A, but maybe you can tell us if the cat's going to be on cover A.
Yeah, that's going to be cover A.
Oh, this is that's the determining cover. Wow, starting out with David Mack on issue number 1. What was it like yesterday being on the WhatNot stage in Denver Fan Expo with the whole crew? Did it start to feel real?
Well, that was such an incredible moment, like Jack from WhatNot was talking about, making these moments for people and making moments like in comic book history. And that really felt like a moment to me, at least. How about you?
Oh, man. I mean, yeah, standing next to David Mack, opening these boxes and pulling out. Because, like, we had never seen, me and Kevin and Michael were all kind of standing around going, like, well, I hope they look good. And, like, Jack made a comment, like, wouldn't that be the saddest video ever if, like, they looked like shit? And so we're just, like, standing around these boxes opening with our hearts pounding. And then they're beautiful. Like, they're so, I couldn't have imagined how them looking this good in my imagination. Like, it was huge.
All right, so we have Ninja Funk debuting. It's going to be the second title coming out this year. Big congratulations to the three of you and everyone else who's part of this creative team. I know it's probably a lot even more than that, whether from inspiration to actually the work on the title. Is this the only book that you guys have thought about making? I mean, you guys have been doing music for a long time together, it sounds like. Are there any other things cooking?
I mean, I don't want to give anything away. I'll leave it up to JPG.
Well, we want this. This is world building for us, and we have world building years from today. So, like, we have like an outline for it. So we want to expand this world and just make it like something for everybody in every single like storyboard arc that we have.
Well, I'm really digging this like interactive aspect to it, which also is going to make it a standout because we have some pretty unique titles. I mean, don't you feel like, Ryan, all four of these comics are vastly different than one another, but they all have a very likable quality.
They do. I was kind of worried when I got this ash can that like maybe one of them would be like,
They were here to cover this, and we would be honest, like, hey, I'm not really vibing with this one. Who knows?
But no, they all stick out. I remember them all very clearly, which if you know me, you know I have horrible memory issues. So like the fact that I can go like, oh yeah, Alpha Betas is awesome. I'm looking forward to Ninja Funk. Like Exiled even looks cool to me. I'm excited.
There we go. And shout out Quested too. JPG, Steve, Rob, thank you so much. Big congratulations. I'm excited to see the output you're about to do.
Thank you guys.
Thanks a lot, man. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Comic Familia, this is a big day. I've known this gentleman for 5 years strong. There's a lot of you who have been watching the channel since the CBSI days. Shout out Ben. And part of the trending 10 that we would cover would be communicating with the writer of said list, but there was a liaison. There was a person in between. I wouldn't even go as far to say it would be a middleman because it was an integral part of the process. And his name was Jack DeMeo, AKA Mr. Bolo. First time on the show. And you're here to talk about you starting with WhatNot, a damn publishing company.
Right. If we're going to do a first appearance, this is the first appearance to do.
Jack, what have you done?
We started something. We got something going.
This is nuts, man. Like, Ryan and I are here to cover this WhatNot publishing launch. We've been chatting about it being akin to like a Founders Day, where we're really feeling it. The energy here at Denver Fan Expo has been outstanding, and I'm seeing an extravagant amount of individuals just excited online. The press has gone out there, and the comic fam sees it, and I don't even think they know what's coming.
No, they definitely don't know what's coming. But it's one of those things, like, we've been working on this behind the scenes for like 7 months. So
only 7 months. In only 7 months, this guy puts together more than 4 comic books, and Wesley Snipes is on the creative team.
But it's one of those things. That's not me. That's a whole team. The founders, we're missing Trevor this weekend, but the founders have all brought the heat to the table. I think the image comparison is apropos because you're bringing people from different worlds, different walks, kind of. The stories are so diverse, and we're kind of coming together to put this thing together. Everybody's got a singular vision, though. We really want to bring comic books to the masses. We want to really be thoughtful about collectability, which I think is missing from the publishing game right now. And I'm excited for these ash cans to hit the market today, 3 p.m. Mountain Time. By the time people see this, they will be out there.
The one thing that we have been chatting about all weekend, watching this publishing announcement take place, was seeing that WhatNot was doing something different. the application involvement with distribution
Right.
is never been done before to my knowledge. This is a very unique way of releasing comic books, and you could have just stuck with the application route, but you're also going the diamond route.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you want to really consider all facets of the market, and one of the biggest and most integral parts of the health of the overall comic market is the LCS. Certainly, WhatNot, it's a live streaming platform. You can go direct to consumer, but at the same point, like, we want to be really mindful of that traditional book market. Also for discoverability, like, I'm so excited that we're going to get the WhatNot logo into every comic shop in America. If you haven't heard about us yet, you're going to hear about us now. So that's very exciting. And it allows us really to get increased awareness and exposure, because I'm very proud of the things we're doing in the comic community, and launching this publishing imprint is another example. I really appreciate you saying that that's not something you've seen from like legacy platforms. For us, in each of the communities in which we work in, of course, the one that I'm the focused on is comics. We really want to be a part of the community. It's not just enough just to have this platform where people can buy and sell, but we also want to listen to our users. So from things like creators who launched onto the platform, who all have these amazing, everybody's got a story, right? Everybody's got a thing they want to get out there. Hearing that they were looking for distribution and looking for alternative distribution, with some of the kind of legacy publishing companies, having kind of like a certain playbook, and we can throw the playbook out. We can have some fun with it. So that attracted me and WhatNot to it. The other opportunities, we got a lot of sellers who are looking for supply.
Right.
They're looking for books. They're looking for exclusives. They want something that feels native to the WhatNot ecosystem. And this is really the biggest and best way that we can approach that. So really, really proud of what the team has put together for this launch. Being here, right here with you on the Comic Time 101 YouTube channel, where is there a better place to kind of kick all of this off? So full circle for when you and I started working together 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride, Jack. I mean, the comic fam doesn't know, but behind the scenes, like, we've been friends this entire time, even though we've kind of like, we were working on stuff in the past, and then we had a little bit of a gap in between, but then we started working together again, and now we're chatting and seeing each other on a near bi-weekly basis.
Right. It's come a long way. I'm so excited that we've now gotten to a place, again, where the world's opened up. We're back at conventions. Mm-hmm. And then with the power of WhatNot, the streaming boost, the whole kind of movement we've got going on at the convention scene, we've been able to get you out here, kind of bringing some books to the people, podcasting from all over the country. So fun to see.
It's been fantastic. Ryan, you've been at an LCS working for over a year and a half. This guy just got his chops in, so let's give a big shout out to Fire Guy Ryan, who went full-time comic books over the last year and then started working at an LCS and for the Mystery Mail Call fam. Considering that you're seeing or have seen the new customers, new comic readers and buyers, probably more than we have, being that you were in the trenches, how do you think this is going to be different to connect with the readers and the community?
I know from working there that just the fact that you have a new book with a number 1 on it, that's enough right then and there. But at least based on the previews we've read, these books stand on their own. There's enough here, I think, to make them pop. And I know if I was working at the shop, I could recommend some of this stuff to people. And I'm sure that's going to happen all over the country.
Yeah, the number 1s. Can we talk about that, Jack?
Let's do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Alpha Beta, we were just chatting about that. And this one right here, you mentioned that this was your favorite of the 4. Is that
correct?
Right? All right. So what was it like to see this book come into production, to be made, and then to be the first one, not just in the Ashcan, but slated for release this year?
Yeah, I mean, look, Alpha Betas is amazing. If you haven't had a chance to go check out the YouTube channel, they've got the premiere episode up there. Over 7 million views. So the people have already spoken.
An option status book.
Absolutely.
As your debut.
Absolutely.
Classy move.
Right. Who gets that opportunity? We feel
doesn't happen.
So lucky. So it's such a no-brainer. Obviously, coming from the YouTube space, you're able to see how YouTubers can directly connect to an audience. And again, everybody has a story to tell. So being able to take that story very much, the Rick and Morty vibes to it. I think there's an audience there who's just clamoring for more. And then again, like whether, no matter what we're talking about, the Exiled, Quested, Ninja Funk, you get something different from each of these books. So what I'm excited for is when people go into their LCS and they come up to a Fire Guy Ryan, right? And maybe that's that new buyer who just doesn't know exactly what they're looking for. We're going to be able to give them something from the WhatNot publishing label that will connect with them.
There is a surprising amount of customers that we've acquired via the WhatNot app that are first-time comic buyers.
Yes.
There are members of our community here on WhatNot that have acknowledged that there's just no LCS around them, or the one that is closest is too far. And this is the most convenient way to acquire comic books. I think this right here is an example of an untapped market when the market itself is constantly criticized for being too small and is dwindling. And WhatNot has just bridged the gap.
That's absolutely the goal. You know, I live in South Carolina, and living in South Carolina, LCSs are few and far between. So I have always been very sensitive to that concern. And then also, when you're dealing with small town LCSs, they can't afford to go so deep into the indies to order all of these books. So WhatNot has become a place where no matter where you live, you can log on 24/7 and you can find comics. And that means a lot to me. And then also, we've got some of the biggest and best sellers and biggest personalities out in the community, including yourself, Comic Tom 101, of course.
Well, Jack, AKA Mr. Bolo, what can they expect? Because we know the 4 titles, we're talking about them on the show here, but as we look at 2023, 2024, what are some things that you're hoping to see happen in this new market that you are paving the way with the assistance of such an amazing creative team?
There's so many goals, right? Certainly, everybody's got sales number goals, and really it's not about an actual dollar figure or a number sold. It's really about the place on the market. So there's, everybody's got their favorite indie books, right?
Sure.
And we've got those marked as targets, right? You want to do that. I want Ninja Funk to be seen in the same light as Something's Killing the Children, Grimm, which is one of the hottest indies out right now. I want it to stand up to Department of Truth and a Crossover and all of these great books, and getting to watch this kind of journey and that we're going to go on to really try to make that happen is extremely, extremely exciting. Because really, look, I love all of these books, but this all started with Ninja Funk.
Ninja Funk. And I think that's a great segue to really point out something that's happened and what makes this such a unique situation that I've compared to one of the biggest moments in independent comic history, which was the Founders Day of Image. We've seen this begun already before WhatNot even got involved.
Yes.
We have seen multiple powerhouse creatives go to Substack, bring their communities there because they needed a platform and some way in between the LCS and them doing just their own self-publishing and distribution. There had to be a mechanism in between to reach to their community. So of course, James Tynan, Jimmy T, one of the best writers of all time, generations, right? Scott Snyder, Donnie Cates. Of course, you can find them there. But what about everyone else? What about the next Jimmy T? What about the next Jenny Frizen? All of which are doing very similar things to connect to their community. And you're bringing up Ninja Funk, which is Jean Paul, one of the biggest mystery box distributors in the United States, good friend of ours, comic dealer extraordinaire,
Yes.
who just happened to have written a comic. How did that happen? He just told you I wrote a comic and you're like, let's make it a reality?
It was so serendipitous how this has all come to be. John Paul is amazing. As a retailer, that Spider-Man booth is second to none. They often sit on top of the comics community within the WhatNot ecosystem. And, one thing that I take seriously, we look at all of our relationships with sellers. They're our partners, right? It's not a transactional thing. I want to work with each and every seller on a one-on-one basis to really help them achieve their goals. Now, that's tough, when you got over 1,200 sellers at this point, but early on, a year ago at San Diego Comic-Con Special Edition, I got a chance to get out there. We didn't have a booth. We weren't in the building yet, but we were able to get out there and spend some time with some of our sellers who were. And I got to spend a good amount of time with JPG and really talk to him about, I got to watch his whole operation. He's out there with his partner. He's got his mother on the booth. His mother was an absolute rock star at the booth. And I always ask sellers, what's the goal? What's the dream? What's the end game? We all have that. And that constantly moves over time. But, he gave me a very unique answer. Most sellers, it might be like a situation like Fire Guy Ryan, something you and I both have been through, where you get to quit your day job and do comics full time. That's the dream for so many. It may be a dollar figure. I want to do X amount in sales.
Sure.
For him, it was this book that he'd been working on behind the scenes for years with, one of his best friends. And I got to see some pages. He actually had some pages put together. The amazing Alex Riegel killed it. And Looking at these pages, I was immediately, as a comic book fan, I was taken aback by the book. It looked like something that if I saw on a shelf, I'd have to check out issue 1. So when he told me that he wanted to publish it, wasn't exactly sure how to go about that. I took that as a challenge.
There you go.
You know, how can we make that happen? And I think that's the power of WhatNot, is that we can kind of solve the unsolvable. And there's really nothing that's outside of the bounds. As long as we're talking comics, we'll find a way. So started having discussions with how we could make all of this happen. Met Kevin Rodatelli from Happy Tank, and the rest is history.
AKA Mr. Bolo. You can find him on Instagram. I'll put the link in the description. You are doing some amazing things in this industry, and you've been doing it for a long time. 5 years strong, and it's really cool to see what you can do now with the power of WhatNot. And I think that is one of the things that I want the members to take away from these conversations, is that we have comic fans, readers, and collectors who are on these creative teams.
Absolutely.
Who are part of this company. And that is a huge difference than what I've seen in my entire career in comic books. There's a lot of readers. That's amazing. But the readers don't necessarily understand the collectors. The collectors don't necessarily understand the original art collectors. These are different factions, but they all are part of the mechanism that makes comics a viable entity and a medium, because it doesn't make sense that they exist. This should be a dead medium. We're talking about paper, expensive paper. Comic fam, hit the like, slap the subscribe button, and as always,
geek responsibly.
Enough said.